Thank you very much for allowing us to present our data. I'm about to break the ICS rules because Nicola, my colleague, was going to present this, and now I'm doing more than 3. But there we are. So this is a follow-up study. As you know, interventions work. We have a paucity of data to find out what happens when formal supports are withdrawn. And this is a follow-up, 1-year follow-up study of a cluster randomized trial of a community-delivered continence intervention in rural Bangladesh. I have no affiliations related to this presentation, which was published in Lancet Global Health earlier this year. And we wanted to see how many women who'd undergone the exercises were still dry or improved 12 months after the intervention. And we were presenting the results from 6 of the villages who'd completed the follow-up at the time. So there are 16 pairs of villages in the main trial. These data are the 6 villages in the intervention arm. Each woman completed the previously patented and invented bladder diary for illiterate ladies, which involved tying knots in the ribbons for incontinence episodes and micturition episodes. Women were also asked, and the primary outcome was the number of incontinence episodes of the red knots in 3 days. Women were asked if they'd attended exercise groups since the end of the trial, if they continued to do home exercises, and how frequently they were doing them at the time of follow-up. So 45 out of 80 women who'd attended the exercises were dry at the end of the main trial, and 51 were dry at the follow-up. As you can see, there were 96 women in the main study. We contacted 80 of those. 5 had died, 5 have moved away. We couldn't find 3 of them, somewhat concerning, and 3 of them had become intellectually incapable. 8 were still attending group exercises at least once a month. 62 were still carrying out home exercises. They had little printed laminated cards of what to do and were using those. They showed the village paramedics who collected the data that they were doing them. And 17 were exercising at home most days. And 82% of those exercising most days had no incontinence episodes at all in their belt. And we'd previously validated the bladder diary belt against the Sandvik Severity Index. So here we go. So women with more frequent home exercise at the time of the main study were also most likely to be dry. So those quite a marked odds ratio of being dry if you continued to do your exercises. And these were adjusted for age, parity, and body mass index at the start of the trial. So our results suggested that motivating women to continue exercises post-intervention is essential for continued effect, and that well-trained and motivated elderly ladies continue to manage their incontinence through sustained home exercises without external reinforcement. Now, we can't say, of course, that all this is due to exercise. We haven't looked at the control villages. Some of this may have been due to the education around fluid hydration and eating fruits and avoiding constipation, but we think it's pretty likely that it was the continued adherence at some part to the exercise program. And we're grateful for CIHR for funding our study, which made the national news in Bangladesh, no doubt, no less. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The floor is open for question. Jean?
Adrian, Jean Haysmith from New Zealand.
And thank you very much for your very kind editorial, Jean.
I couldn't be more delighted with this trial. I think it's a stunning piece of work. Adrian, I'm interested in your conclusion about these were well-trained and motivated ladies, and having read the original trial report, I'm aware of the training that you gave to the paramedics who then passed that on to the women, which was very exciting innovation. I'm interested, though, in your conclusion about motivation. What do you think was so motivating? Because this is the thing we hear all the time, is that women lose motivation. So what's going on here?
It was quite surprising to me, knowing the amount of stigma that people have around incontinence and the ladies per se. Once they got together, they talked about it. They enjoyed company, got them out. A lot of the problem with recruitment was husbands telling their women that they couldn't do this, so they weren't allowed to do it. Once they got together, by God, they did it. They did dance classes, the exercises to music, along with the pelvic floor, and it was. I don't think the social part of this can be discounted. In rural Bangladesh, being incontinent is extremely disabling around religious practice. There's a significant association with depressive symptoms, and there was a positive outcome on depression associated with this. And I'm sure the social factor can't be ignored.
Thank you, Adrian.
This is very interesting. Next question.
Hi, I'm Anistrom from Sweden. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. It sounds great, actually. Do you think there is anything that there are possibilities to achieve something similar in more developed countries, or are we too individualistic to go on with this?
I don't know. We're certainly hoping now to translate this intervention for a culturally appropriate intervention for our indigenous communities, where in the far north we may have 400 people, where incontinence again is extremely prevalent. There is no reason why this couldn't be delivered by, I think, even peer older people in communities in developed countries. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can I go now, Mr. Chair?
Floor. So what about the husband at the end? Were they happy?
Well, actually, yeah, we didn't ask them, and maybe we should have. We perhaps should have opened the husband's eyes to the value of their womenfolk a little more. You're quite right. We didn't ask. Thank you.